What's Buzzin podcast? I'm your host Sam Degnan, and along with me, Michael Fraley. Um, Before we get into this, the Whiplash review. It's just Whiplash, right? Not the Whiplash.
Yeah, just Whiplash.
Um, Before we get into this, so Mort's not going to be in this podcast today. He's busy, and we'll come out with a statement about Mort's future role in the podcast later today. But yeah, dude, what a movie. Oh my gosh. I watched it last night because I knew we were reviewing it today. And since we actually, if you look at our Instagram and Twitter, we just published our this next slate of movies that we're going to be reviewing for the next couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
I didn't recommend this movie. I had this movie in like my top 10 or so, but Mike, you specifically recommended this movie that we review it, and I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I'll just start by saying this. So the first time I watched this, I thought it was like, okay, this is pretty damn good. Like, I like this movie. I didn't think of it in like my top. I don't even know if I would have put in my top 10, like even because I think I watched this for the first time like 4 or 5 months ago. And when I watched it, I'm like, all right, that's pretty good. I don't know if I'd go top 10, but it's pretty entertaining. I watched it again, started slowly creeping up for me into that upper tier of my favorite movies. And after today, let me just say, I think this is, I can't find a flaw with this movie, honestly, watching it today. I was looking, I have 3.5 pages of notes here. And that's like stuff I write down that I think is important in the plot. And that's more than any other movie. And this movie is only an hour and 40 minutes, which I think it's crazy that there's that much stuff jam-packed into it.
It's so efficient. It's like the most, it knows what it tells the story so quickly and so effectively. And this movie, I watched it for the first time 4 years ago. So that was like 2 years after it was released. I think it already had won an Oscar at this point, or at least J.K. Simmons did. J.K. Simmons won like Best Supporting Actor.
Which well-deserving, incredibly
very deserving. And like I enjoyed it first time, and then like you said, I watched it. I think I've maybe seen this movie 3 or 4 times because like it's one of those movies like it's like a draining movie. I mean, it's like
It's a lot. Yeah,
but there's a lot of satisfaction with it too. It's not like a movie that's just like draining and there's no payoff. Like the final scene.
Yeah.
We gotta slow down. We gotta slow down. This movie is just.
Yeah. One thing that I'll say, so like I was watching this on Amazon Prime, and like they have like this trivia thing that you can look at before the movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that this movie was shot in 19 days.
19 days?
Incredible. Yeah. Not only that, it had the lowest budget for any picture nominated for Best Picture that year in the Oscars. So it had the lowest budget, was shot in like a little less than 3 weeks, which is just like, I mean, it makes sense. It's based off, it's a relatively
like a high budget CGI film. Like it's very low scale.
But I think that that's a testament to just great movie making and acting. That's something with such a low budget and
kind of editing. My gosh, there were so many like great edits in this movie. And I know it's like kind of weird to talk about like the edits, but right as like Fletcher's like get out Caravan or get out Whiplash, like the little stuff like people opening the folders, the paper rustling, the tying of the tuning of the instruments.
It's all great.
It adds to the feel of the movie and it just works so well.
I think I say we get into it a bit.
Yeah.
First scene of this movie, I think perfect job establishing what both characters are about. Like it's a shot of
Andrew. Well, isn't there a black screen first before we get into
it? Yeah, there's like a black screen and like an increasingly loud drum beat.
Yeah.
I think is pretty cool too. Fletcher walks in on Neiman practicing and he's like, why'd you stop playing? He goes, and then he just responds by playing again. And he's like, and then like 10 seconds later, he's like, did I ask you to start playing again? Your version of responding to me was just going off on some little drum solo. And I think that's just like, it's the perfect way to start.
He's such a commanding presence. Like
Yeah.
this is how like by answering like okay, the funny thing is like I'm gonna call him Neiman throughout because that's what Fletcher calls him.
That's
I think it's
that's fair. That's
Neiman.
fair.
I think it's Naaman. Like
It's Neiman, isn't it?
no, it's Naaman. Like the first scene, I remember I was like, I knew him as like Neiman. Like I barely even called him
Yeah.
Andrew. It's Neiman because Fletcher calls him Neiman. But he says his name's like Andrew Neiman, sir. It's like, but he calls him Neiman. I don't know. It's just a little thing like that. Like
Yeah.
Fletcher
That's
doesn't
true.
care. He will do whatever. He.
It is Fletcher is fucking with him the entire movie.
I
It's
know.
crazy. He's like it's literally like he's one step ahead of him. He's always like knee deep in his brain. It's crazy. But yeah, so after that nice opening scene, there's a movie he's at a movie with his dad. I think it's kind of great. It's another great way to establish his character because he doesn't really like people could see this and say like, oh, he's kind of a barren character, right? He has like no interests. And that's shown with his dad. He doesn't really care about the movie. He's never like that excited about anything too. His relationship with
Nicole.
Nicole as well. It's just
Yeah.
like super awkward and boring. And the first time I saw this, I think this is probably the biggest problem I had. Like I thought Andrew Neiman he's just a shitty character because like he had nothing to him really. But I think that's kind of the point. I think he's supposed to just be this awkward, boring kid who's just focused on his music.
Yeah.
Maybe not boring, but
I mean, I think he's a little boring. Like he's very driven. We see that from the beginning. They do so many like great little things, like him listening to the drum solos in his free time. Like he's a quirky yet like I wouldn't go as far as say he's like weird and like super quirky. It's just like in the middle. Like he's a normal guy who is kind of bland but is really passionate about this one thing, and Fletcher brings the worst out of him.
yeah.
This movie is just a character study of how, abuse can like change a person, I guess.
And also too, there's a scene where he like walks right past a party to get to his room. Just again showing that he just doesn't care unless it's about his music. So then kind of the first like really important scene is when he's in the other band. What's the first band called? Is it like NASA or something?
I called it JV band. I don't know.
Yeah, it pretty much JV. So he's like practicing there, and everyone, one guy like kind of disrespects him that he overhears. And actually Connolly, the other drummer, is like sticking up for him.
Yeah, this was amazing. Like Connolly was a likable character.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
When Fletcher brought Connolly in just to fuck with Neiman. And like Neiman would like go after Connolly. Like it was.
Yeah,
it was
and Connolly was like
movie.
Friend. He was like sticking up for him.
Yeah, like later in the movie, Neiman was like, I know Neiman showed up late, and this was before the car accident, and I forget what Neiman said, but like Connolly said like some quip, and Neiman like went right at him. And like
he's like, turn my pages, bitch.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Yeah, this movie is hilarious, by the way.
There's so many like good,
so many great lines.
So many, but it's so toxic though. It's so toxic.
It's very toxic. So then eventually, like they do one shot of it's like you can see Fletcher behind the door, just a silhouette. I thought that was kind of cool. He's like listening in, and then they do another scene with like the JV band, we'll call it, where he comes in. It's like they're practicing. He just walks in, and I love it's what you were saying earlier, how he like commands the room. When he walks in, like everyone stops. It's like this big loud noise of the door opening.
I know. He like pushes it open, like this big presence. Walks in all black, black loud shoes. You can hear the clicking of his shoes. They go to a shot on the shoes. Like little stuff. Oh my God. Little stuff like that.
And he tells the other conductor to step aside. He's like, no, I got this. Looks at the pages.
He was like, move. Or was
He's
like,
get out of the way. Yeah. Looks at the page. He's like, this is cute. Or whatever.
He reads the music. He's like, like reads the whole music so fast. Like is able to, understand the time, understand everything. He's like, and he scoffs. He's like, it's cute. Like, the disrespect. It's not even like disrespect. It's more of just like, he sees himself as like, he's just so much better than him, and he knows it in terms of music.
And then he like picks out all the other band players to test them to play a bit, and he's just roasting all of them one
I
after
know
another.
to the girl, he was like, "Well, you're first chair. Let's see if it's because you're good or if it's because you're cute." And
Yeah,
and then
and
she's
she messes up, and it's like, nope, it's because you're cute.
like,
It's so great. He's such a great character.
you kind of like him, but you kind of don't.
Oh yeah,
It's so conflicting because like he's like you want Neiman to do well for him, right? But he's
Mhm.
also just a terrible person and super
Yeah,
abusive. Like you could see, um, yeah, I'll get into it later with the scene where he talks about the player who committed suicide, but
yeah,
he's a messed up individual that we like, and it's really weird. I don't know, it felt like kind of icky, but I really liked it.
yeah. So then once Fletcher picks Neiman, tells him to come to the good band tomorrow. Um, that gives Neiman the confidence to ask out the girl, which I
Yeah,
think they do a super great job of making this scene as awkward as possible. And
yeah.
kind of like there's two scenes like this with the two of them, but it's so awkward, and it's so great to see like this is how this character operates. This is how Neiman operates.
Mhm.
It's
Like
just
it's
like
all in one shot, right?
yeah,
And like or the scene where he asks her out, it's like he's on the right side, he's on the left. There's no like I don't know, they didn't like mix it up and make it feel less awkward with editing. Like they
yeah,
just let it sit. And that's how like the conversation like went. And like Neiman like forgot to ask for her number or was like didn't even think of a time.
yeah, or where they're going.
Yeah.
Like, will you go out with me? Um, so yeah, and then so the day after that, actually, he tells him to. Fletcher told Neiman to show up 3 hours early.
Was it 3 hours?
Yeah, so he just like again just to like fuck with him, I guess.
Yeah.
And so he's there from like 6 to 9, sitting there, and I thought it's like, well, it's like what's the point of that? But I think he's just fucking with him the
Yeah.
entire movie.
He wants to push him even. He also wanted to get him like tired because that was the practice where he totally embarrassed him in front of everyone. But when like having him like be late was I felt so much tension because at this point like I'm already like kind of scared of Fletcher.
Oh yeah, he's a scary guy.
Yeah, and
He's
the fact
goddamn
that he's
terrible.
late, like they do a great job of showing the anxiety that um Neiman must feel. Also, Miles Teller is so good in this role. He's so underrated. I
Yeah,
actually chose Bleed
yeah,
for this, which we will be reviewing in a couple weeks, um, because I saw it once and really liked it. I don't know how it stands now, but he's just such a good actor, and I think he's super underrated because he's been in some terrible movies, but I think this is one of his best roles, and I don't know. I really like him as an
yeah.
actor.
He plays, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is such like a low key movie. It's like two actors commanding it the entire time, and they're both literally perfect at what they do, which is just it's what makes this movie so great. But yeah. So and then we get kind of like Fletcher. They're like practicing, and then he finds the out of tune player. And this part is like this is really the first insight into how Fletcher
This
operates.
is messed up.
I see this is messed up, but it's also hilarious. He's like, so he's going through each one of them, and he gets to the guy Metz, and Metz is just like he's terrified. He's already terrified. Um, and then what does he say to him? He's like he gets him to play, or no, he doesn't get him to play. He's asking him if he was
Are
in.
you out of tune? And he's like, I don't know. And he was like,
He
get out.
starts looking down. He looks down. He's like,
Yeah.
"There's no fucking Mars bar down there, or whatever." Um,
He just made so many. He finds like insecurities in these kids, and just see that's the
yeah,
thing.
they're like
That's the thing
college
that was so
kids.
messed up. Like after the break, after he like exposed that guy, before that he's like he wasn't out of tune. He didn't know he was out of tune, and that's so much worse. And
Like, oh damn.
then he's like, you were actually out of tune. Imagine being that guy, like who was actually out of tune. Like God, I'd be so
Yeah,
pressed.
and you just got a kid kicked out
You'd
and
feel
made him
so
start
bad.
crying.
But the
Like,
thing is, like, he, it's such a toxic way to go about it. But I kind of understand what he's going for. Like, he wants to push
yeah,
everyone to be the best version of themselves that they can.
yeah,
And His
It's
methods are
like
terrible.
it's generally like the central question of the movie. It's
Yeah,
like how much is too much when you're trying to push someone to be the best at something.
and it also like depends on the type of person. Like that person, what was his name, Meds or whatever, was not built for. He was not
Yeah.
built for that.
And that's what he's
So
doing. He's trying to figure out the people who are built for it. So I know you're saying in a way I kind of respect it. Like that's how you figure out who's really cut out for this.
yeah, it's just
I mean, it's terrible and it's mean, but it's kind
okay.
of necessary in a way.
But after he kicks that guy out, they take like 10 minutes, right? And he goes and talks to Neiman. Also, okay, I'll come back to this later. But at first, when Neiman's like first day, he's like Neiman, just a squeaker. Like it's like
So
young and innocent. And when Connolly comes into the band, like half an hour later, he does the same thing, and then Neiman smiles because he's like, I know where this is going. And Steve, that's the stuff. Like they could have like a basic movie or whatever would have added a line being like, oh, that's what he said 30 minutes earlier. No, but by having him smile,
mm,
the director trusts that we get that. Like we get
it trusts the audience. It
yeah.
doesn't think the audience is a bunch of idiots.
I feel like we can just continue like saying the same thing, but when you trust the audience and you show and don't tell, the movie is better because of it. Nine
Yeah.
out of 10.
So Neiman's or not Neiman, Fletcher's like talking about being all nice to him. The first time I saw this too, I like completely bought them. Like, oh, he's a nice guy. He's
Yeah.
trying to figure out, and then
But he
nope,
also wait, Mike, hold up. He also found out about he asked
yeah,
about his like
his
parents.
mom, yeah,
He was trying to find out like because Neiman at the surface, like you said, kind of boring. Like doesn't have a lot,
hmm
of like interesting things. Like kind of just a guy who's just, kind of dull.
yeah,
So Neiman or Fletcher found like the biggest insecurities and the biggest things he could exploit with his like abusive language, and he just did it. Like the mommy
yeah.
stuff, like that's why mommy walked out on you. He says that a lot, and
Yeah.
like it's
Just to
just
tear him down.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, he acts all friendly to him, and then that leads into arguably, I think this is one of my 5 favorite scenes of any movie ever.
Yeah,
The not my tempo rushing dragging scene,
yeah,
which I think is just it's so great because it starts off, it's like he's playing all happy, then he messes up once, then twice, then 3 times, and it's like Fletcher is like, he's not mad, he's just trying to get him to
he
do it
wasn't
right.
even messing up. I don't think he was messing up.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I think like guys like me and you, because like we never did band, right?
Yeah,
Um, we can like yeah, that was my thing exactly. It sounds the same every time to me. That's why I was confused too, and that's what I think so well done about this movie is like we just we don't understand it because it sounds the same to us.
yeah.
And just like that little bit that he thinks it's off by, we can't even hear that, which just shows how hard it is and how you have to be like perfect.
Doesn't he throw a folder at him? Like this is when like it starts to get real. Like he gets like irritated.
Yeah, he gets mad. He throws the chair too.
Was that? I thought that was later. Or was
No,
that?
that's this scene. That's this scene.
Oh, he throws a chair.
And another thing we missed too is he tells him the Charlie Parker story, how his constructor threw a symbol at him or whatever,
Yeah.
and he kept messing up, which I think it seems innocent at the time, but it's it's some nice foreshadowing to what happens like 5 minutes later.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Uh, so he throws the chair at him, and he's like, Neiman, do you have any idea why I just hurled a chair at your head? And Neiman's just like completely, he's just has no idea what happens. He's like, were you rushing or dragging? And I love this little, and he again has no idea. I love this little power walk that J.K. Simmons does, like right into the frame to get in his face. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I love when he does that. It's so funny and also so scary.
And Neiman is so flustered. Like Miles Teller does a great job showing how flustered he is. And then he has them are like, are you rushing or are you dragging? And then he's like, has him start counting. And he's like, he's
Literally slaps him.
He's like, you fucking stupid. And like,
Yeah.
you're an idiot.
The way this is shot too, though, I think is a perfect as well because it's a close up on both of their faces.
Yeah. And then he starts slapping him.
Yeah, it's a great job of like establishing how uncomfortable and tense that scene is
Yeah.
with just that close up of both faces in the shot. That's another great thing about this movie is the cinematography and scenes
Yeah.
like that. So it's just really tense, also funny too, because you can't help but laugh at the Fletcher insults.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be like tense and scary, but when he says for like the father fucking time, or for the final father fucking time, again, just to go at him, because his mom walked out on him, he says father fucking. He's like, for the father fucking time, say it louder. It's just.
I know, and you can see the tear. You can see the tear like going down his eye. It's just like the one tear. He's like, "Are you a one tear kind of guy?" He's like, it's just like stuff like that.
It's so funny, and there's so many different emotions in this scene. It's like it's funny and scary at the same time. It's perfect. It's a perfect scene.
And no one dares to oppose him either, because he's just so.
Yeah.
Like, Neiman's the only one who did, and we'll get into that later. But everyone just like sits back and lets him do it. Like it's like they've seen this like a bunch of times before.
Yeah. So this is I think that's kind of the first. That's an important scene also, because that's like the first point where Neiman really begins his descent into trying to be great and to pushing his limits. And there's this great montage of him practicing after that. And like I was saying,
hands.
Yeah, the blood in the hands, like the quick shots of him setting up his drum set, all that makes this movie elite for me.
I know, and it's like they show the metaphor of working through blood, sweat, and tears, like without saying anything, because that's what he did. Hands were bleeding, crying, and he was just sweating because of how hard he was working and how hard he was pushing his limits.
And also, too, just like the jazz music they use for these different montages. Like
it's so good.
And like this, what I'm saying, like I don't, I'm the furthest kid from band and jazz music. Like I've never had an interest, never liked either. Yet it's so great to me in this movie, the way it's used, the way the jazz music is used.
It's just like so. It's so like light in tone, but I don't know how to explain it. It just works so well.
It's like it's kind of like soft music in a way.
Yeah, it's like elevator music in this like really chaotic atmosphere. I don't know.
Perfect. So yeah, then they go into the date. Then his first date with Nicole, which again, just like their interaction when he asked her out, it's like it's super awkward.
Was that after?
Yeah, so that's after there's like a practice montage.
Yeah.
Then it's like the date, and then it's his date with Nicole. And it's really awkward too, because she keeps bringing up stuff about like herself, and Neiman, he just goes right back to like what he's doing.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say he asks about like he's genuinely interested in Nicole, and Nicole has absolutely no plan. She has no plan. She has no clue what she wants to do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She's really nice and sweet, but she doesn't have any plan. And for a guy like Neiman, who's super driven and knows what he wants to do for the rest of his life, he doesn't think it'll be compatible. And this is like how Fletcher. This is because of Fletcher though, because Neiman didn't used to be like this. Like
yeah, he's already changing,
and it's very subtle at this point. Like you can still see the good of Neiman in this scene when he reassures her about like being homesick, right?
Yeah.
And like, you could see like the little like foot tap under the chair or under the table, which shows like they're connecting, right? Like the date went well and we'll see her again. But then what happens after that? When do we get to the second date? Is that after he loses the part?
Well, no. So after this, yeah, they have like the one competition where he loses the folder.
Oh my God.
And there's a whole, this is another great part of it too.
I know.
So like they're in the practice room and they're about to go on stage. And the guy walks up to Fletcher, like the really small guy, he walks up to Fletcher and he's like, "You're on stage in 5." And he like sticks a finger up. He's like, "Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you."
And he's like, "I can still see you, Mini-Me."
Yeah, I still fucking see you, Mini-Me. It's so many great lines and insults.
Also, okay, I have this theory about the folder. I think it's Fletcher. Fletcher obviously stole the folder,
I think it
but
is too.
because before that or like during that scene, he's like, if I see another folder on the ground, I'm gonna like flip my shit, like classic Fletcher, right? But if I see any more folders on the ground, he's the one who alludes to the folder, and then also, um, after Tanner, also like the Tanner guy, like felt so real, like great performance from him. I don't
Yeah.
even know his name, but it was a really good job. And he like flips out on
He like blames Tanner for something Neiman did.
yeah, but he's like
Weird.
but then he's like I can't, play the charts without my music. I need visual cues. You know this. Like he has a condition. But then he's like, you know this. Like he knows like Fletcher knew about his condition and he
Yeah.
knew that he wouldn't be
And
able to play.
Fletcher just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, but like Fletcher knew that would happen. So he
Yeah.
wanted to give uh Neiman a chance while like having it be organic. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree. I agree. I think it was 100% Fletcher.
But it's such a good
I like that they don't tell you. I like that they don't tell you.
yeah.
Even though
They
you can kind of assume it.
like I didn't think it didn't seem like it wasn't Andrew. Like Andrew
Well,
did.
he just lost it. Like he just wasn't looking at
Okay,
it.
but he didn't hide the folder. Like someone took it
Oh yeah, for sure.
because they
Somebody.
showed us there for a second. He gets the Coke and then it's not there.
Yeah, which is weird. It's only like they show like 5 seconds almost between when he puts the folder down.
Yeah,
When
he
he like
didn't. It wasn't
gets the
Andrew.
Coke.
I saw something online about how it was like could have been Tanner, but I was like, why would he do that? He
But that makes no
the
sense.
only logical person is Fletcher, so it was
Yeah.
definitely Fletcher.
Well, I think it's either Fletcher or like what he said, like a janitor took it or something. But I think
It
it's
was
definitely.
not a janitor, dude. It was not a
No, I
janitor.
don't think it was. I think it was Fletcher, but that's the only other logical option.
I
Then
mean, I
it's
guess, but like that would have.
yeah, it's got to be Fletcher.
You
It's got to be.
don't fuck. You don't
Yeah,
fuck.
he's
That's what he
pissed.
said in the movie. That's what Tanner said.
Yeah,
And he was like, "A fucking janitor? How
yeah.
stupid are like God?" That was so funny. But I was also like, "Oh my God, he lost the folder." It was such a good scene. And then I forgot what happens during that performance. Is it just a normal performance?
So no, then Neiman plays. Like Neiman gets to play the part,
Yeah,
and he does pretty well. Actually, he
yeah,
does well. And then that kind of leads into. Well, actually, no. Before that, so Fletcher or not Fletcher, Schaefer gets first in that competition,
yeah.
and then that night they have the family dinner scene with Neiman and his dad. And I don't know if they're like who those other kids were, if those were like his stepbrothers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, this family dinner scene, I think this is another fantastic scene. Because they're talking, it starts with them talking to Andrew about like what he did, how his jazz drumming is going. And then the two other kids walk in and kind of interrupt him. Like everyone starts going like, "Hey, you're here. Let's go." Everyone starts getting kind of hyped when those kids walk in. And then they're just like talking about their football team.
Oh, I don't really remember this scene, but just tell me about it.
Yeah. So the other two kids are talking about their football team and like how one of them's MVP, one of them scored a 93-yard touchdown. And then they get into this conversation about Neiman saying like he'd rather live to be 34 and die of like a heroin overdose or whatever, which is what what happened to Charlie Parker, I think.
Oh, really?
Or I don't know exactly, but he'd rather live to be 34 and be famous and everyone knows his name than live to be 90 and sober and have a few friends but not have a name at all. And I think like this is another good question that the movie brings up of like what is like the right idea of success and a good life?
Yeah.
Because Neiman obviously thinks it's the shorter life and living your best life for a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, it sounds like Neiman. He sounds like he was probably. I don't really remember the scene, but he sounds like he was pretty jealous about those guys taking it and taking the spotlight of the conversation. And I don't know. I feel like Neiman's so passionate about jazz and such, and I think he just cares so much more about how well known he is rather than the longevity of his life. And I think that's, again, attributed to Fletcher pushing him further and further. And this is how, like, because, like,
Yeah.
obviously I'd rather live to 90 and, have like, I
Oh
think
yeah, for
take
sure.
90 and, like, have some friends, live a good life, whatnot. But, like, he's so convoluted with, I guess, like, all of Fletcher and, him pushing him to be the best, that it's like, this is, again, it's just more of like the gradual change of Neiman from this, like, innocent little kid to this really messed up person.
Mhm.
But he's still super driven. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's because you can already see like the impact that Fletcher's had, and this is only like 45 minutes in the movie. It's like
Yeah.
45 minutes in, and
Yeah.
Fletcher's already deeply impacting what Neiman thinks.
Mm-hmm.
But then later in that scene too, it's another great line. It's like, if you think Carlton football's a joke, because Neiman's like shitting on their football teams. Like, if you think Carlton football's a joke, come play with us. And then Neiman responds with four words you'll never hear from the NFL. It's a great family dynamic line.
Wait, what was the 4 words? Complete with,
Like,
oh
he's
my
like, come
gosh.
play with us. Yeah. It's another funny scene. Um, it's because, like, the more I'm thinking about it, my one slight problem with this movie I would have had is that I thought Neiman was not like the best character. But I'm realizing now that they do this subtly. They tell
Yeah.
you a lot about him, a lot how he's changing thanks to Fletcher
Mm-hmm.
throughout the movie. Um, so I don't know. I don't see that as much of an issue, and it was much of an issue now.
What's after that? Is this one
Yeah, this is
John
when they
Casey
have
dies?
the double time swing drum off is kind of what I call it, between like Tanner, Connolly, and Ryan, or not Ryan,
Doesn't
Neiman.
Sean Casey, he tells a story about Sean Casey before, right?
Um,
I think this is when this happens though. Because he walks in, or he's like, oh, this it's after a practice.
oh
And
yeah, I glossed over some stuff.
so it was after a practice, and
Yeah,
he
he
comes
brings
in.
Connolly in. He brings Connolly in first,
Yeah, and then he's like, and
and
then
just
he, like,
just as like incentive is what he says later in the movie. It's literally just incentive
and he's
for
like,
Negan's
that's my part.
character.
He's like, that's my part. And he walks in and, like,
Yeah.
confronts him, and, like, this is good. And, like, I was actually pretty happy to see Neiman confront Fletcher because he
Mhm.
deserves it, and he should, like, fight back. Like, he deserves some respect. I mean, he sounded a little entitled, I guess, like, saying, like, this is my part. Like, I don't know. I guess he sounded a little entitled, but I also like that he pushed back. God, I feel so conflicted about that, but I think,
Yeah, and it's so it kind of like the end of it though, because he has Connolly play for him, and then Fletcher likes what Connolly does. So Neiman's kind of pissed off about that.
he's like, yeah, the fuck is this bullshit? Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny. Like, Connolly was,
Seriously,
like, nice to
that
him too.
bullshit.
I know, and Connolly was nice to him too, which is why, like, I
Yeah.
felt, again, you feel like Andrew's becoming a jerk, and he's becoming like Fletcher.
Oh
Really
yeah.
becoming like Fletcher.
But then so then Fletcher gets the call though about Sean Casey.
Yeah.
So when Neiman walks into his office and Fletcher is like really distraught, and he tells him like not now, and like to go away. Because I didn't realize this the first time. Like, he's mad about Sean, or he's sad about Sean Casey. I
Yeah,
did
I
like
know.
that completely went over my head for some reason the first
Well,
time.
I didn't know, but that's what I felt like. I thought he was sympathizing with him, like, yeah. But then okay,
No, it's the phone call though. It's the Sean Casey phone call.
yeah, that's really sad. But then the thing that, like, made me think, oh, he's full of shit, is the next day when he talks about uh the story, like, he puts on Sean Casey's music, and he's like,
Yeah.
uh he lied about him getting into a car accident because that's not
Yeah.
what happened. And he was like, he was such a great player. Said nothing about his, personality or whether he was a good guy. Such a great player. That's how he sees. That's how his mind works. He sees Neiman as a player. He doesn't think
Yeah.
about the emotions that these kids have, how they would react to, his abusive, actions. It's just he he just
He only cares about how they play. He only cares.
Exactly. That's all he sees. And
Yeah.
it's so messed up.
Yeah. And because it seems like too, when he's telling that story, it seems like he's finally starting to show some emotion.
I know, but then it's the
But
last
then,
thing he
yeah.
says.
And then you think about it, you're like, okay, well, not really though, because he only
He
cares
lied.
about how Sean Casey was as a player.
Yeah, and he lied about it because he didn't
Yeah,
want
and he
people to
lied.
think about it.
So then after that, that's when we have the double time swing between Tanner, Connolly, and Neiman.
This is
Um,
also great.
yeah, this is a great scene because this is another point, and each time they'd play, and I'd be like, well, what is the difference between these? How are these off? These sound exactly right.
Everyone's
Um,
bleeding in their hands. Everyone's sweating. He's also like, I'm gonna take as long as I need. And I honestly respected that because sometimes I feel like I've like with coaches and teachers, when someone's doing something wrong and he wants them to get it right, sometimes coaches and teachers will be like, we'll stay here as long as we need. But he actually stayed there for like 45 minutes. Like it showed how dedicated Fletcher was to his job.
yeah, he makes everyone else leave and take like a break or whatever, and wait for them to figure it out. Which
Yeah.
again puts more anxiety and pressure on all those drummers.
Yeah. And
And
then
he
also,
says, what does he say? He says he's like, you motherfuckers better start shitting me perfect 400s.
yeah.
It's just so many great lines. It's like very weird insults, but
He has like the classic go-to insults for each kid, right? For Tanner, it's because he thinks he's gay. And then for Connolly, I think it's because does he call him a leprechaun or something?
yeah, he's like, I'm gonna start calling you Flannery. You do look a bit like a leprechaun.
Yeah, that's his one thing. And then it's uh for Neiman, it's his mom. And like
Yeah.
that's such a bully mentality. Like find one thing to expose in a person that's an insecurity and like repeat it and do it over and over again. And he's just mentally destroying them every single time. And he's trying to see who will bounce back, who will be resilient, who will not get discouraged. And Neiman was the one who did. And that's why he was the best.
Yeah. So then I think this might have been a bit before that though. So then then Neiman breaks up with Nicole, which by the way is just like it's the most confident he seems talking to her. Like he tells her just the brutal, honest truth about why they can't date each other.
It's so sad though.
It's like it's so cold, but he's just like it's also too, it's the first time he like really talks to her without being awkward or stuttering or whatever.
He's
You know,
so
he's just telling her that she doesn't matter to him and she won't matter to him, which is like, dude, I kind of saw that. I was like, damn.
yeah, because
God
like
damn.
he was like some of the points he was making like were right. Like we're gonna grow to resent each other because I won't be able to spend enough time with you. Like that's totally fair. Like you could see
Oh,
Nicole.
yeah. He brings up like he's kind of right in a way, but it's just like it's so bastard.
But this isn't the Andrew we know at the beginning of the movie because
Yeah.
Fletcher's made him so driven. Like he spends all of his time on drumming, and
Yeah.
he's
He's
brought the
turned
worst
into
out
a
of it.
monster, pretty
Like
much.
I mean, he has turned him into a monster. Like he doesn't care how she feels.
Yeah.
You can see him at the end where like as she's walking out, he turns around and honestly, I kind of saw that as like the last bit of his humanity. Like that's kind of a stretch, but you know what I mean. Like the last bit of it, like the old Andrew we know.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's not the same person anymore. Not at all. And
Yeah,
this is only like again, this is only like the halfway point in this movie. And
I
he's
know.
completely changed who he
This is
is.
within like the hour.
And it's crazy because you feel like that's earned too. Like you don't feel like that's sudden or anything.
No, it's like
It's
this is the
complete.
next
It makes
sequential
sense.
step. Yeah.
His entire character arc makes sense.
Is this okay? From here, is this when? So he has the part, and now do we go into the next
The
part?
one I think it's like the Dunellen competition or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's riding there on the bus, and the bus gets a flat tire. And this is a point like I started questioning everything. Jesus Christ, how much does Fletcher control here? I like kind of jokingly questioned myself: did Fletcher cut the bus tires or
Dude.
some shit? Like,
He honestly might have. Like we don't even
no,
know.
I don't think he did. There's no way. There's no way. as cool as it would be, as much as it makes you think, like, damn, he really, because like
No,
the
but that's
entire,
exactly what he wants. That's exactly what he
yeah,
wants, though. That's how twisted Fletcher is in his head. Like that's how far inside of Andrew's head he was, because like he was questioning, like we were questioning as viewers, like
that's how far inside of our heads he is.
that's yeah,
Yeah,
Matt. It's just like
it's
we don't
crazy.
even know, and that's how scary he is as a kid. Like
Legitimately had me questioning if he set up Neiman being late, which just it makes no sense, but I was questioning it while watching the movie.
yeah,
Crazy. So yeah, he gets a flat tire, he shows up late, and he tells him that Connolly is playing the part because he was late. And then this is kind of the point where Neiman, like, he really starts to fight back. He's
well,
like,
he's lost it completely. He's
yeah,
on the phone calling, you know, it's either Connolly or Tanner, and he's just yelling at him, and he's being a terrible person. He's just like,
he's a complete dick.
you tell him I'm gonna play that fucking part over you. Like, he's just like,
Yeah.
no sense for like how they feel. Like he's just completely gone. Like the old Andrew is gone.
Yeah. And Fletcher kind of puts him in check. He says, it's my part and I choose who to lend it to. He calls him, in the process, he calls him I wrote it down, a weepy willow shit sack. There's yet another great insult. Very quotable movie, by the way.
Yes, very
Incredibly
quotable.
quotable. So then then Fletcher like left I think his stick somewhere.
No, he let Andrew left him in his own car.
Oh yeah. So he leaves him in his car. He goes back to get him, and then while he's on the phone, he gets in a car crash. Which I think I like the way this is shot too, because it like goes from him on the phone, then it pans down to him putting his phone down, pans back up, and then like the truck is coming right at him.
Yeah.
It's the first time I saw that. It honestly made me jump a little bit.
Yeah, it was like very scary.
The scene is so hectic too and chaotic. Like the process of him getting there, then going back to retrieve his sticks and coming back. It's like all these quick edits and shots that I think make it incredibly hectic.
Yeah, he gets out of so then he gets out of the like he's there. He's like, oh, like he's bleeding from the face. Like he's definitely concussed. He's probably has a broken rib, to be honest. And the first thing he thinks of, I gotta get my sticks. He gets his sticks and starts like running. Like the person's like, you gotta wait. I gotta call, law enforcement, whatever. And he's like, I just gotta go. It's like he's like completely out of it. It just shows how crazy he's become. Like any sane person, like he tries to play even through that.
His entire body is fucked. He's got like blood on half of his face, and he just runs over to go to try and make it on time to play.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
He's so broken by this point, and he's so attached to Fletcher and drumming, and he wants to prove him wrong.
And eventually, like when he starts playing and he can't play, and Fletcher tells him it's done, and then he literally just attacks Fletcher and tries to like beat him up or something. I think it's just like, dude, god damn.
He's so angry. And he's like, fuck you, Fletcher. Like as he's getting thrown off. Like Fletcher was even shook up by that. And I was so proud.
Yeah.
I was honestly like proud.
Yeah.
I was like, but I was also like, this is so sad.
Because Fletcher deserves it, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, Neiman's he
just screwed himself.
Yeah.
You can't attack him.
But I think I like about this too scene is when Fletcher's kind of like looking at him confused. He's looking at Neiman confused when he like first shows up all bloody.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time Fletcher's kind of like, did I go too far?
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. Because he's looking at him, he's like, God damn, what the hell is wrong with this kid? And he's kind of like questioning himself. And I think he actually does think he's gone too far. Because this is like post Sean Casey.
Yeah.
Fletcher knew the truth that he hanged himself probably.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want that to happen again. So he tells him he's done, which like smart move, the right move.
Yeah, I'm glad he said he's done. Like that was like honestly pretty nice. Like I don't know, I felt like
no, it was the right thing to do. It was.
I don't think he meant like he's done like from the choir or from the band forever. It was more of just like.
See, I think he did though. I think he realized how much like Neiman was just too into this, and he didn't want to have another Sean Casey happen. So he wanted Neiman. I think he wanted Neiman to be done for good with the band.
Yeah, but you can't do that after you just totally threw him in like that. You know how messed up that is? And that's
Yeah.
why he lashed out. Like Andrew
Yeah.
does that.
Oh yeah, it's Fletcher's fault for getting him to that point.
Yeah.
And Fletcher realizes that and tries to do what's best for him, but it's kind of like, all right, well, now it's too late.
Yeah. And
So
then
yeah,
there's a time jump.
what?
There's a time jump after that, right?
Yeah, it jumps to like summer and him filing a lawsuit
He
against
doesn't. His dad does.
yeah, his dad does, but he like agrees to testify against Fletcher. And along with
It's reluctant though. It's
what?
reluctant. He doesn't want to testify.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't in the beginning, but he like thinks about it and then he's like, okay, I will.
But then he's like, "What do you want me to say?"
Yeah. He reluctantly does it.
Yeah.
So then he runs into Fletcher, and this is kind of getting into the end and eventually to the finale. He runs into Fletcher at the jazz event. And I think this is kind of the scene where like the whole movie kind of explains itself in a way.
Yeah.
Because Fletcher is telling him about Charlie Parker. And he's telling him about like how Charlie Parker, I'm forgetting Charlie Parker's instructor's name, but he's telling him how he like threw the cymbal, how he's like super hard on him and humiliated him, which I mean, the quite obvious parallel between the two.
Yeah.
And the thing that Fletcher says that I think is super important, it's the quote, there are no two words more harmful than good job. And I think, that watching this movie, I'm like, all right, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
It shows you just like Fletcher's, it's the perfect way to kind of, I guess, sum up Fletcher's character.
Yeah.
And how he operates.
And he also like subtly teases Andrew as well. He's like, "I never had a Charlie Parker, but I tried." Like that's a direct jab at him. Like Andrew was really good.
Yeah.
But like he was basically saying you're not enough or you weren't good enough. And again, that I think gives him the push to like get back in the game and go to the pro concert.
Again, he's just fucking with him. Again, he's like slightly toying with Andrew to get him to want to come back. And then when he asked Andrew about playing once they leave, and he recommends Connolly, I kind of like that. I thought that was interesting because it shows you that since he'd taken all this time off of drumming, like I think he's kind of back to being a good person in a way too, because he recommends Connolly, and it seems like he hates Connolly from the scene at the one competition. So I thought that was a nice touch, but then he eventually agrees to do it.
Then he calls Nicole again, which is a sign of him being a good person again.
Yeah, and he kind of has like that, I guess, confidence back too, in a way. He feels like, all right, well, I can get this girl again. And then it's just kind of, it's shot down by her saying, "Let me ask my boyfriend if we can do this."
And it's such a well acted scene because you see like
it's really well shot too.
Yeah. He's like, you see his initial excitement, and then he's like I blew it.
Yeah. And kind of to add to that, so that's the last scene I think before what I think is one of the best finales in any movie.
Yeah,
one of my favorite finales. So he's with the new band. They're kind of like backstage before, and he tells them one important thing. He's like, these people out there, they make one call, set up the rest of your life. But also, if they see one thing, it can ruin your entire career. That's not it, but like something like
that's
that.
what it is, though.
Yeah, it's pretty much that, which I think is, again, a nice bit of foreshadowing for what happens 30 seconds later, where Fletcher walks over him and he's like, "Do you think I'm an idiot? I know it was you." It's just that subtle quote, and watching that, it's just like, oh shit.
He knows.
Oh,
and then it's like, and then everyone else is taking out completely different songs.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, you feel helpless watching him do that. He tries to adjust on the fly. Yeah. The guy next to him is like, "What the hell are you doing, man? This isn't the song." And he goes,
that scene for me, it's like almost hard to watch in a way, because it's just like, oh shit. That feeling of it's almost like I feel what he was feeling in that sense, where everyone had a different song and he's sitting there with something else. And that's what's so great.
Yeah.
It's like, you feel like you're in his position in a way. Like literally, like my stomach dropped when that happened. That's not even an exaggeration.
Okay,
Like
but so
that
then
was
he walks.
intense.
Okay, a little thing though. So as everyone else is taking out their music, you can see the song, then you can also see Caravan in the back, like right beneath it, I think. So like there's two like in the folder, like you can see the song, and then right behind it you see Caravan. That's just like a little detail for later. So when he gets basically shunned off stage, he goes back on after like hugging his dad, and he's like, I won't let Fletcher win. Like I won't be defeated.
Yeah. Like the triumph there, but also that combined with like him fully descending into madness of being a perfectionist and an artist.
Yeah.
That combination right there, I think is perfect.
So then my favorite part is when he just starts Caravan. Like he starts his drum solo right away as he's doing his thing.
Doesn't give a shit.
And then like like Fletcher's looking at him and he like mouths "fuck you." Like, he's like, and then you just feel so good, like, haha, eat that, and like,
he's like yes. And
then he starts playing a great drum solo, and like it's like goes on for like 9 to 10 minutes, and like there's little like nuances that happen. We can kind of go over them.
Fletcher comes over. He's like, I will gouge your fucking eye out.
And then he hits him with the the cymbal.
So he starts by, I think it's interesting. So he starts by threatening him, right?
Yeah.
He starts by threatening him, and then they keep playing. They finish Caravan, and then Andrew keeps going. And it's kind of like an elevation in what Fletcher thinks about him. So he comes over, he's like, and then this is the only time, I saw this somewhere, the only time he refers to him as Andrew is at this end, where he's like, Andrew, what are you doing, man? When he finishes, that's the only time. So I think it's cool because it's like Fletcher is still trying to keep Neiman beneath him. When he says,
I think he played through the cutoff. He played through the cutoff, and like he defied Fletcher once again.
Yeah.
He's going. He plays this excellent drum solo.
And Fletcher finally realized, he's like, dude, I respect that. He's like, I respect that. I'm impressed by that. So then he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'll cue you in. Another great, like 8 minutes of drum solo or whatever.
He's taken the power back. He's taken his own agency back that Fletcher
with took music. Like with the music too.
I know.
That's so great good. It's amazing. And the music is amazing for like 5 straight minutes. And then what I love too is his like one of his drum stands starts to fall. Fletcher runs over, picks it up, puts it back where it's supposed to be. It's like now they're on the same level. And now they're trying to help each other.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a great contrast from like the 10 minutes before that, where Fletcher was just threatening him to get off his stage pretty much and just humiliated him.
So yeah, as he keeps going, right? He like keeps going, and then he finishes his drum solo, like it keeps climaxing. Then the end, which you've been using in your GIFs on Twitter, where they make eye contact, and it's a shot of their own eyes, and they're both like super excited.
And then it comes, Fletcher's like goes like this, it goes back to Neiman, and he does
the way it zooms in, and he just
and then when he does the last beat, and it cuts to black.
Like, oh my gosh.
That is how you make a goddamn finale.
Exactly.
That is just like, it's incredible.
Dude, notice how excited we are talking about it. It's like a band, like
band.
Like we're not like
it's literally banned, and we're getting hyped about it because it's so good.
It's just brilliant movie making. It's just brilliant.
It's incredible. So yeah.
The weird thing is though, Fletcher wins at the end. He wins. Like at the final scene, they both win, but Fletcher wins as well.
Oh, one thing we forgot to mention is the shot of his dad.
Oh,
slowly turning into a frown. Like his face slowly turning into a frown. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. It's like I think Neiman and Fletcher win because they both realize that Neiman realizes that he can be an all-time great.
I don't know if it was a frown.
No, he was like surprised though. It wasn't a frown, but he was kind of like shocked in a way.
Yeah, you can interpret it so many different ways. Like maybe he's proud of him, but he also sees what he's like.
I think he's seen what Neiman has become. And he realized, he's like, holy shit, my son's going to be one of those musicians who dies at like age 40 or something. Like what he's fortunate. That's like
or he could be one of the greatest of all time. I don't think that's what he thinks. It's just so.
I don't know. I think
it's so open-ended.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I definitely agree though. I think Fletcher does win. Fletcher, because he has this Charlie Parker now.
Yeah.
He has this guy. Um, to Neiman wins because Neiman knows that now is my time. This performance is going to show them that I can be an all-time great.
Yeah.
Um, so Neiman wins, Fletcher wins. Well, Neiman, I mean, it's debatable. I think it's debatable because I think
I think he does win because he's now on the same level as uh, Fletcher. He's not some subordinate that is gonna completely change his character to get what he wants. He now knows he has the talent and he's not afraid of him anymore. So he can be the same Andrew Neiman that we've known at the beginning of the movie while being the stud, drummer. It's like I don't think he lost. Like you could see he's starting to regain his humanity that he lost due to Fletcher's teachings.
Do you think so? This is kind of the one question I wanted to ask. Do you think Fletcher is in the right this entire movie?
No.
Like overall.
Like in the right?
Do you think his methods are ultimately
methods are not right. Methods I cannot excuse the methods. I think his end goal is like right, but his methods are just terribly wrong.
So you don't think there's any part of what he does that's defensible?
No, I think his goal is defensible. Like the fact that he wants to push everyone to be the best versions of themselves that they can be, and that's just through tough love. But it's just through abuse. Like he's abusing these kids, and Sean Casey is the example of the majority of the kids that go through this. Like they do end up with like anxiety and all these mental health issues from Fletcher. So I cannot excuse that. I do think though that Fletcher, his goal of pushing everyone to be the best versions of themselves is what everyone should strive to be individually. But the fact that Fletcher did that, like he took away their own agency, if you think about it, right? Because by pushing them and like by abusing them, it's just worse. You know what I mean? So when Andrew like regains that control at the end of the movie, that's why it's so satisfying.
Yeah. That's a good ass point. I mean, I don't know. I think the statement that the movie is trying to make is that there's got to be a right middle ground to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Neiman, what Fletcher does to Neiman, I would agree. I think it's too much. It's definitely too much.
Yeah, it's definitely too much.
Methods are, and that's the point though. It's supposed to show you like this is what's too much, but it makes you think though at the same time with Fletcher because some of the things he says to defend himself, like the quote when they're talking to each other, and he's like, "There's no more harmful words than good job."
Yeah,
like that in that scene, he kind of has a point. Like being too nice to people when they're trying to train for something is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
yeah, but when it's something that you love, like band and drumming, that can like turning it into something that seems like a chore and seems like you can only like keep getting better and it's not enjoyable anymore. Like band wasn't enjoyable for Andrew near the midway point of the movie. It just wasn't. Because it just turned into a chore. It turned into like job security. He didn't make it fun. And so he didn't lose passion. Like he still had that passion, but he just turned into a terrible person because of it,
Oh, definitely.
So,
all right. Ratings.
Mike, you go first.
This is tough. This is very tough. I don't know if I would want to give this because there's no flaw with this movie. I think there's not a flaw. The more I think about it, and it's incredible, the more I think about it, the more I read about it, the more I watch any YouTube videos, it just doesn't have a problem to me. And I think a movie that does that, and I think like there's nothing wrong with any of the characters, everything is done. It's literally everything's a masterpiece. Every section of this movie is a masterpiece. I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10. I'm doing it. This movie deserves a 10.
Wow. Our first 10.
This is my second 10.
What was your first 10?
The Dark Knight.
You went 10 on The Dark Knight?
I went down, dude. The Dark Knight's my favorite.
I mean, I know it's your favorite, but like I didn't. I mean, yeah, you did go 10.
Yeah.
Um,
It might be too high. It might be too high, but
that's you know what? Fuck it, Mike. I'm going 10 too. This movie, this movie made
yeah.
me feel something that was just so powerful. It's one of those that's going to stick with me for a long time. The performances were great. The music throughout was great. The message was great about resiliency and determination. And it also, provided like a great moral question, like what's too far? How far should one go to, improve oneself? And it has great characters, very quotable, like we said. And the cinematography, yeah, Mike, like you said, there's nothing wrong with this
Sound
movie.
design too,
Yeah,
music,
there's
everything.
nothing wrong with this movie. And this movie is like perfectly made for the scale it's like intended for. And it's just so efficient, such a good movie, so satisfying. Ending is fantastic. I think anything other than a 10 for me would just be me trying to
Just
give
trying to
a
bring it down.
movie a
Just to
lower
bring it
score.
down. Yeah, just for the
So
sake.
I'm no Spencer Krelitz, so I'm not going to do that. I like a movie that's
I
10 out of
think
10.
this movie is truly a masterpiece in every category.
Mhm. This is one of those movies that
You haven't seen this, like
this will
you.
be one of the best movies of the century. And I'm
Yeah,
saying no. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
I mean,
This
if you're still watching this right now, um, watch this movie.
please watch this movie.
Yeah,
Please watch this movie. You
it's
will not regret it. It's only an hour and 40 minutes too. It's like an hour
and it
45.
goes by much quicker than that. So
Yeah. All right.
that's all we have time for today. We will be producing a lot more content soon. We have our movie reviews. We'll mix in some
Sports along the way.
sports.
When it's kind of the right time.
There's going to be a video game episode soon. Look forward to that. We will have some special guests on the podcast. So yeah. So everybody, please stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask.
Exactly.
Please wear a mask.
Watch
And
Whiplash while you're at it.
so yeah. So thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep buzzing.